You know, this weekend I decided to visit a place called Relics on Balboa Boulevard. I thought I was just going to look at some old memorabilia. I had no idea I was about to walk back into one of the happiest times of my life. The minute I walked through those doors, I started getting goosebumps. I wasn't just looking at old things anymore. I was remembering what it was like growing up in the San Fernando Valley during the 70s and 80s. The first thing that caught my eye was all those pinball machines. I could almost hear the bells ringing and remember people gathered around watching the really good players. Back then, arcades weren't just a place to play games. They were where we met our friends, laughed, competed, and spent entire afternoons looking at those machines. Remind me how different life was. We didn't have cell phones. We had each other. If you wanted to see your friends, you didn't send a text. You grabbed your skateboard or your bike and headed over to their house. If they weren't home, you went looking somewhere else. Our neighborhood was our social media. Our conversations happened face to face. Looking back, I really miss that. Then I came across the Fast Times or Richmond High display. That immediately reminded me of the Sherman Oaks Galleria. I spent so much time there with my friends. We go to the movies, grab something to eat, walking around the mall for hours. And during Christmas, it was absolutely beautiful. It wasn't just a shopping mall. It was where we made memories. Walking by all those restaurant signs brought back another memory. We sit there talking for hours about school, about music, about cars, about girls. Nobody was staring down at the phones. The conversation was the entertainment. Those are the moments I miss. There was one thing I kept looking for, skateboards. I kept thinking, there's got to be skateboards display somewhere here. Finally, I walked up to one of the guys working there and asked him, hey, how come aren't any skateboards? He kind of smiled. So I started telling him about places like Skate Across and how huge skateboarding was when I was growing up. To me, skateboarding belonged right alongside the pinball machines and the arcades. I hope one day they add a skateboard display because it would bring back a lot of memories for people my age. As I kept walking through the museum, I realized something. The reason these things affected me wasn't because they were old. It was because they remind me of one of the happiest times of my life. The pinball machines, the Sherman Oaks Galleria, the restaurants, the arcades, the conversations, the friendships. Those weren't just places. They were moments that helped shape who I am. Sometimes people ask me why I enjoy places like this. It's because they remind me of a time when life felt a little simpler. When friends knock on your front door instead of sending a text. When we'd spend all day together without looking at a screen. This museum didn't just remind me of old things. It reminded me of one of the happiest chapters of my life. If you grew up in the 70s and 80s, I love to hear what places bring back memories for you. Thanks for walking with me, and I'll see you next time on The Shadow Beside Me.